So the first is creating a well-defined or powerful folder strategy. So first and foremost is use a proper folder hierarchy. So what a hierarchy means is you create inside your workstation or your PC, you have different drives. So here it means that you have a hard disk or you have a CD-ROM, or it can also represent a network drive or a USB drive or your your organization's IT work. So within that, you maintain well-defined folders. Within that, you also maintain subfolders and files pertaining to those folders only. So typically what means by using hierarchy is that by looking into the folder structures, you can able to identify which file will be where. So those kind of information is what a hierarchy will give you. So looking into detail, what we can do is you can build a hierarchy by using various categories or project stages. So this is a sample of it. So it means that you have a product in place, whereas you have, based on the project stages, you define the folder hierarchy. We have, see, it is well named by using a numbering and also using a defined a simple name of the folder, and there are subfolders within it. So these subfolders can be also part of the other main folders also. But by based on the folder view, you can categorize where it is. That is, if this design comes into the definition, so it means it's a part of the concept definition. But if it's this design comes under the development, you can understand that this is a development stage. So likewise, the hierarchy will give you the first cut of information that pertains to the file that you are going to put into. So next, you can also group the folders by date if you want. It means that you're working on, projects that are defined by quarters or by months that are going to be, the start of month or the delivery month. So in those cases, it's a well defined archive mechanism by which you can categorize by the date of creation. So it means that you can know where to look into. Suppose a project that was executed in 2018, then you can open up the folder in 2018 and then look in. So what you're doing is you are narrowing down the search. You know where to look into. Then you can subject that into separate search structure so that it will help you out. So this is how you categorize the different folders. Also, what you can do is you can create folder templates so that you can use it and reuse it and then duplicate it into other projects also, so that you can quickly invoke it. You do not need to create each and every folders once more. So typically it means that if you name this folder top folder structure as XXX product, and it means that the internal structures are not going to change, but the external structure, that is this product XXX, for example, it's 001 product, so that you maintain a separate file stating that 001 refers to this customer, 002 refers to that customer, and so on. So what means that you can create a well-defined folder template and then duplicate it. So next comes the file naming strategies. So these naming strategies are well-defined principles by which you can deduce a disciplined way of structuring the files. So these file naming and folder naming strategies are not related or not restricted only to your drawing files. I would recommend you all guys to execute this in day-to-day practice. You try and name the files and folders for all the activities, be it music, be it movies, or be it games or whatever you work on typically. Try to organize them into well-defined folders and also file names. So in that case, you can have very good management principle in practice so that you can cross-applicate into your future requirements. So the first thing, there are plenty number of standard naming or label conventions going on for different applications. We'll look one later. But if you have such naming conventions in place, then it is well appreciated. If not, then you can devise your own naming conventions. So let's look into what are the techniques that you can take into naming conventions. The first thing is keep the file name as short as possible or in integer into your programming language. Those can have For example, if you have defined as a character, then it can go until 256 characters. And based on the architecture of the system, initial character name is restricted. So it typically goes on to just 32 character spaces. But then as technology progressed, then we had a limit to increase it. I think now it's around 200 characters or so. But it does not mean that you have to exhaust all the 200 characters that is available for the file. You have to be as short as possible so that the file intent is communicated clearly to the user. So how to do it? You can also use descriptive information terminologies built into your file naming strategies. It means that you designate certain terms and then place it into your file name so that you can have a master description list stating that the first two characters demonstrate these type of information and the next two characters these information and so on. So it means that the viewer can understand that this character always refers to this type of information. So those information you can encode within your file. Next, best practices use the date information into your system because typically in the Windows Explorer, when you create a file, the file timestamp gets updated in the file that is created onto your Windows. But suppose if you open and close it, then the timestamp will get again updated into it as modified. So it means that when you're typically viewing the file on your Windows Explorer screen, even though it was created way back, if you had opened it recently, the latest revision will get updated in the Windows file management as the modified. The original file would not have changed, but Windows has its own way of updating the file references. So it's best practice to also include the dates into your file name. And in dates, typically in India, what you tend to do is you go by date, month, and year. But if you designate it as year, month, and dates, you have a chronological order. The file will get aligned in the date structure, or else it won't get aligned. So you can try it out and see how it will. So typically, you can either use the 4 digit for the year or 2 digits, but the general practice is to use the complete list, that is YYYY, that is 4 digits for your year, 2 digits for your month, and 2 digits for your date. So next, you can also use the numbering techniques to mention the versions of your file. So we'll look into version management in shortly, but instead of naming it as a single digit, in best practice, you can always name it as 2 digits and starting with 01. So it means that you can go until 99. So considering you have so many revisions, but also it's easier for you to look into and edit in the overall folder structure. So it means that the first file will be 01 and the 10th file will be 10 and so on and so forth. So it's easy to look and differentiate between the files revisions. And next, always avoid special characters when you're naming the files. Typically, certain softwares allow you to take special characters, certain do not. But as a general naming convention, do not use special characters like the tilde sign, the exclamatory, the at the rate of pound, dollar, percentage, etc. So those are good for passwords, but not good for files. If we want to, bring in a larger name or differentiate between different information areas within your file, then the best practice is to use either the underscore or hyphen in space of blank spaces. But typically most of the programming languages, they recognize only underscores. So using underscore in place of blank spaces is the best preferred way of naming a file. So quickly we'll look into one of those naming conventions, BS1192. So this naming convention was predominantly followed and used in the United Kingdom. It was introduced in the year 2007, and later it also got adopted as an international standard as ISO 19650 with certain lot of additions. So what is does as BS 1192 typically focuses on organization and digitization of the information about buildings and civil engineering works, including building information modeling. So this pertains to architectural ground, but you can see that The keywords here are that matters. That is, you organize the data and then digitize the data. You can leave out the second part, that is the building, civil engineering works and all. It's a standard derived for the architecture industry, but the purpose is to organize and digitize the information. So this was what we were speaking about earlier. Having a proper folder structure or having a proper file nomenclature so that it can be easily retrieved and easily make sense of. So we can look into what are the different parts of it. So those parts can differentiate within a single file name, that what is it, document or a drawing or a model or a data file, all encompassed within the single description of the file name. So typically it looks like this. It has a series of alphabets and numbers, and this technique, use both hyphens as well as colons. But this is the exploded view of the entire naming convention that BS 1192 uses. It has both an optional and as well as a mandatory one. So typically, those that are highlighted in red boxes are optional one. So first, let us look into the mandatory one. So what are those sections mean? So the first one, starting from the left, is the project number. So typically, it can be of 2 to 6 characters in length, and they typically comprise of letters or numbers. And based on the projects that you work on, you can give a unified nomenclature by it. The PR1 internally can refer to project X that you are working on. It might be an individual project or a company based project. So next one, XYZ, is the company name or code that you work on. So this is again drawn from the BS 1192 standards. This is to give you an example of how a naming convention looks like. You can adopt it to your own use and adopt it to your own requirement. And later in your workplace also, if there are no hard and fast rules that are available, I would definitely recommend you to take up the initiative to create such file and folder naming nomenclatures, so that will ensure that your organization moves to a data centric method and have a robust data management system and process. So next is the volume of the system information. So typically if you're working on different subsections of it, this volume, it's a civil terminology, but it means that the overall picture of the project, just as in your books that is in volume 1, 2, 3, 4, so and so, or classify between subsystems. So those kind of information can be captured in here. So next is the levels or locations that you do. So those are 2 characters again with the latest numbers. So as it is a civil name, it means that 01 means the first floor and 02 means the second floor and GF means ground floor and so on and so forth. But here again, you can also, for a mechanical one, you can modify it, say on a subsystem, what are the child parts, how the child parts have been categorized, those kind of information you can carry it into it. So next is the type of information that is encompassed within the file. So if it's M3, it means it's a 3D model file. So if it's named as DR, it is a 2D drawing, or if it's a PR, it's a program. So those programs we'll look into later. We'll look into macros and autolist. So we can also use those differentiation of the information within the file. And this file, see why? Because based on the extension, if it's a .dwg, it's a drawing file. If it's .txt, it's a text file. If it's MP4, it's a video file. But all those information cannot be just taken only with the extension, but rather you can also bring those descriptive information into your naming instance. So next is the role of the company. So A typically means that the company is an architectural base and it's creating it. Alternatively, if it's of K, then it means that it's a client company. So what it means that the information of the company name and the company role can go in tandem to describe where the file was created and what is the application or the role of the company that takes up this work. And finally, the 4 digits represents the file number. So typically this is the main info, whereas all others are descriptive info pertaining to that file. So next we'll also look into the extended naming convention. So the first one is a civil engineering term. It's a classification of the type of the architectural terminology. So let us not dwell into it, but this 150515 means that it's a unique class of 2015 revision. The next two terminologies can be of use to us. So the S use the suitability status, that is how suitable the drawing is, the file is. So it means that it's named from S0 to S7. It means S0 means it's in the initial status or in a work in progress. So it means that it's a master document index of file that's going to identify the uploaded files into the extranet or the intranet. So typically means that it's the of the initial status of the file. So S1 and 7 through that it shows the shared files in a non-contractual. These are the terminologies that are available in 1192. But the idea is you can see the various level of suitability. Suppose if it's S1, then it's understood that this file is suitable to be shared for coordination so that they can be taken and modified for their own use in applicable domains. And likewise in S5 means that this document is suitable for a manufacturing process. Or S4 it means it requires a stage approval, and S7 means that it's in AIM authorization. So whatever is the final level of authorization or so. So alternatively, from the work in progress to publish to any unauthorized or non-contractual use, then you can name it as D series. Then in published documentation, wherein it is approved and accepted, you can use the A series and so on and so forth. So you can adopt those suitability status to your own project based on your project life cycles. You can assign your codes. That is, we are not following BS 1192, but I'm just saying out how these kind of naming conventions you can apply based on your requirement. So finally, the last three digits was the revision status. That is, you already work on a file. Okay, so that is a unique identifier. And then for that file, you assign the suitability status where it can be used or applied. And then you state in which revision it is. That is, in this file of 001, if the revision is in the preliminary stages, that is, even when it is before launched, you're doing the revision, then you assign the P stages 0102. Suppose it's a completed project or a completed product. So it means that it has already gone to the production line or it has gone to the customer or so, and you get a customer feedback, and based on that you do a minor modification to the file and then send back to the production line. So in that case, you can assign it as in the completed stage, but then you have done a revision to the completed document. So these kind of indications when using a common naming strategy will help everybody in the line to understand what the document means and where to use it. So this is how your naming convention is going to help you.